Hello, welcome everyone. It is another Friday webinar. I have a very exciting show for you today. It's another episode of the Live Pro Network. Today we're joined by Al Fuentes, who is a friend, a mentor of mine, and a mental coach. So I'm excited to have him on the show today. And we have an exciting topic. It's mindset for planning for your life and also your death. So welcome, Al. Thanks for joining us today.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited to be here.
So So this will be a little bit different from our typical show, which I guess our typical show or my typical live streams have all been a little bit different. So I guess it's kind of the same in that regard. So a lot of the guest shows have been more of like, just a straight up interview style. And today we have a topic. So that's a little bit different. And before we get into the topic, I want to set a little background, let people know who you are. So let's start there. Do you want to introduce yourself? I like to ask people, who you are and how would you describe what you do?
Sure. Again, as you announced me, Al Fuentes, I am a mental coach. I do coaching for all kinds of people all around the world. Actually, I've been doing this now for over 13 years, almost 14. Uh, Done almost 4,000 one-on-one sessions, tons of group trainings and coachings and entrepreneurs and pro athletes and high-level actors and musicians. And so it's been a really interesting journey for me. But the essence of what I do is I work with the mind. And I would say to anyone in 30 seconds, I'm a personal trainer for the brain. And anyone who wants to change how their mind works and what goes on with it, you can actually create a mental workout to change a lifetime of old programming into new programming. And that's often not understood for people. They don't feel like, because the brain feels so abstract and emotions are so abstract. But there is actually a way you can train the brain to reprogram it.
Yeah, so we met, I guess it's been about a few years now.
Yeah.
So we've been working together, and it's really cool. So I've met other people in the community who also know you and have worked with you. And how I would describe what you do is I say that you've helped me. You brought like a mirror to myself and a magnifying glass. Like I feel like you've helped me to see myself and to know myself on a deeper level. So I popped up your information on the screen for your website and your Instagram. There's a lot of great resources on the website. So I know there's a bunch of visualizations there, and things like that. So let's talk about that for a minute too. The visualizations. I feel like this is a topic that's becoming, I guess, more and more mainstream, or maybe it's just the circles that I'm in. But I feel like this is a good segue to our mindset topic today.
Sure, because yeah, and it is more mainstream. You have different apps out there that are doing mindfulness and have meditations or visualizations. Uh,
Those apps have gotten big money too, right?
they're very big. YouTube, you can go on YouTube and find just about anything you want. Um, it's definitely getting more. And then just the state of affairs we're all in has had people looking more to peace of mind because of the restlessness of the world around us and not having the outlets that we normally have. People are looking for those outlets, and the visualizations that are on my website that are free, you don't even have to put in an email or anything, because I didn't want it to be some kind of capture space. I truly just want to share those resources. uh, they're really designed to get the back of the brain more active, to use the back of the brain to actually run the show versus this space in the front of the mind. And to me, when it comes to mindset, it's not just about having a good attitude. That's great, and you want to have a good attitude. It's not just about saying affirmations, which again is a beautiful thing. It's about understanding the actual functionality of the brain. It'd be like, going back to the workout analogy, it'd be like, yeah, if you move some weights around, sure, that's nice, but what if you did it functionally? What if you did it to strengthen and lengthen and support your joints and ligaments and tendons versus do things dysfunctional or do things that actually aren't really collectively supporting the whole? And so even with all the great apps out there, because They're not necessarily personalized, nor do they always really understand that we have to, as a human being, as a race, we have to get our back of our brain more involved in processing everyday life, because that's where the bigger processing can come in, and there's where we have bigger picture, bigger vision, bigger wisdom, bigger computing power, literally computing power, instead of just trying to handle everything from this front brain, and which gets overrun, which is trying to process everything and try to make decisions. It was never designed to do both, and
So
that's
like,
kind of how we've done it.
yeah, so the front brain is kind of like the default almost, right? It's kind of like the autopilot.
Yeah, and it really is. It was, again, designed to be like RAM on a computer, just a short-term place things sit before it kind of goes into the CPU, into the hard drive. But what people have done is they just left everything, use the RAM or the front brain to manage everything from memories to processing emotions to quantifying what's around you. And that gets really tough. And it's why people get cloudy and headaches and outbursts and emotional overflows and things like that.
Yeah, so the practice for me, we've been working together for a while, so each time at the end you give me, or we do a recorded visualization for about 8 to 10 minutes, and then I'll listen to that in the mornings, and so that gives me a way to do a guided meditation. So it's been a total game changer, though, I would say. So especially being, an attorney in a kind of a stressful career, dealing with client situations, um, taking time to have a pause and be like, wait, this is good. I want these things. I can handle it. I got it. And
Yeah.
not letting certain things kind of take over. It's a chance to, I guess, just kind of clarify and center.
It really is. And for you personally, not only has it helped your personal life, but the role that you play, especially in the field that you mainly specialize with, you end up becoming some kind of coach or counselor on your own, because these are people dealing with things either after a death experience has happened or trying to prepare for death. And this becomes a very much coaching role that you play. So for you to have mindfulness and centeredness and clarity as you hold space for people, this is where I believe me sitting here today on the Pro Network, it's letting all attorneys realize there's a bigger role that you play, whether you like it or not, because of the advisory role, the coaching role, even the emotional supporting role, because it just happens to be a part of the equation for most attorneys, at least for the people who are passionate and care about their work. So um, for you to have that foundation for yourself, so you're not getting moved around, that is a big important piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, it's nice that I'm starting to hear mindfulness more in the legal world. So I've been to some legal seminars, and they've had talks on it, and so you're hearing about it more and more and incorporating that into your practice.
Yeah. And the second stage of mindfulness isn't just aware of your own self. The second stage of mindfulness, which you have done so well with, is intention for your clients. The industry's changing. We've talked about this many times. It's pretty obvious out there. Technology, all the resources that you can have online. And so no longer are you the gatekeeper, or do you hold all the sacred knowledge and information that maybe attorneys once did. And so for you to have clear intention and for you to be mindful and authentic and how you show up for your clients in as this industry evolves, whether you're an old attorney or a new attorney, there are going to be people and resources out there that are going to give you more free information, give you more resources. And so if the mindset doesn't change and you don't become more mindful and make it more not just geared towards knowledge and charges and fees, but more towards the intention and the outcome and servicing somebody from a thoughtful and mindful place, then you will be left behind. And that's just how not just the law industry is going, but many industries are doing that. And so again, what's cool about you is You've been able to be on the forefront of that, both on the tech side and on the mindfulness side, and with the integrity intention. You're very transparent. You do a lot of flat fee stuff. You're open with kind of processes and how things go, and that's really been huge for your business. So much so that with the logo in the corner, which is Mott, that's now what you want, a space you want to hold for even more people. So that's just where we're headed. The mindfulness is twofold there. It's mindful about how you show up for yourself in the foundation, and it's the mindfulness of how you create this experience with attorneys or with clients.
Yeah, so the core values of Mott Legal, we've adopted it's MEP, so mindfully empowering passions. And the reason to have core values is it helps us quickly align with others. I see others that are, also striving towards those things. I know those are my people. Now, the empowerment, something that we believe in. I think this is also kind of important as we talk about the mindset that goes into planning. Empowerment, we believe in making the process as easy as possible. That wasn't always the case with the older attorneys. I would
Mm-hmm.
say when they controlled the information, or sometimes they purposely try to make things harder than they need to be in an attempt to control the information. So I think that's a big part of the shift where um, um, I guess how it comes to the public, is they need to find a good attorney and then trust the attorney, and then the attorney, that will help them that way, that will teach them and show them what their options are, and then let them choose which way they wanna go.
Yeah, and then if you really think about what's going on the client side, the empowerment piece that you speak of is so important because the client, there's a lot of emotions going on from a client standpoint. Just to even consider doing a trust or an estate plan or anything, there are many people who feel like they are planning for their death versus planning for life. And that is a mindset shift that has to change because it would be like getting car insurance and planning buying car insurance, planning for your accident or your drive off of a cliff, literally, not even metaphorically at that point, or planning for somebody to hit you head on. We don't think that when we buy insurance. We think, hey, this is one, a part of the requirements, but two, most importantly, it's just in case kind of resource, just in case kind of thing. And in my personal experience, it's more like I get it so I don't have to have it, or don't have to need it. It's a subtle difference with estate planning because you will ultimately die, and this will ultimately get triggered. But it doesn't mean that just by starting down this road or doing an estate plan or a trust, you're cementing your death in some timely or soon to be kind of thing. Now, there are some people who do probably come to you that are in some kind of health condition or situation where maybe there's a more clarity upon or a shorter time to live, whether it's just their age or whether it's medical or whatever else. But for the most part, it's really important for people to not feel like this is a deal ender for their life. It's actually putting themselves in a position to be more free and to be more open with their life.
Right, exactly. So it's peace of mind, by doing it, by I like the insurance analogy, by having the insurance, it's a peace of mind. If something does happen, you're covered.
Yeah.
So, that's what doing an estate plan is. Um, yeah, it is very hard though for people, and I've done it myself. When I'm doing my own updating my own documents and getting life insurance, and it's interesting, because it makes you think about your mortality basically in order to make those decisions. We've had people recently where they get kind of, I say, stuck in our process. They don't finish either completing their drafting instructions, deciding who they want to serve in the different positions. And I was telling my team, it's like, yeah, give them a break. They're deciding their whole lives. We have to kind of help them, just help them make a decision. But the way the way that I think is helpful to make that decision is thinking of right now. Just think in terms of the best person right now to handle things for you. So that's basically what estate planning is. So if you can bring it to that level, just like if something were to happen right now, who would I want to manage my money?
Sure.
If you have minor children, who would you want to manage your children right now? Don't try to think about who's going to outlive who, who's the healthiest, who's older, this and that. I have people, they're like, this person would be great, but he's older than me. It's like, well, if they're good now, they're the best person now. Let's name them. And then, part of the estate planning process, just by nature, is you're going to have to update it and change it. We
Hmm.
recommend about every 3 to 5 years. It's just because things change, right? What you feel is important today and the people in your lives that you would trust in different positions may not be the same in 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be from people dying. It could just be relationships change, experiences change. There's a lot of things that go on in this space. So, but what you said is a lot of people stopping during the process, and just your wisdom to tell your people, hey, just give them some space. They are really trying to decide their own life, and then simplifying it. Let's just make it a now decision, not how do we navigate for all the variables. Well, John is this old, and he's his mom and dad have lived this long, so let me calculate that. Well, Mary is this, and Joe is that, and all of that becomes very overwhelming. But even more so than that, it almost becomes about picking favorites and feeling expectations and obligations. And one of the biggest things that this is meant to be is, how do you honor yourself and your legacy? Now, that is something that most people don't think about in this process, because they're always thinking about everyone else, because estate planning is, where does everything go and who gets what and all of that. But it's mostly, if you can keep it simple, like you said, but really focus on, how do I honor myself? And in this case, because of the nature of the business, how do I honor my legacy? It's a huge shift. Now, easier said than done. Someone like you, though, or anyone listening that's an attorney that deals with this, if you can learn how to coach that space, well, what's going to best honor you right now? Because remember, if something does happen to you, you're not going to be around for any backlash, you know? So what honors you? And most importantly, what honors your legacy? Because if you really are doing this for the long-term plan, then your legacy must be honored, which means you must be honored. So let's start there. And like you said, with your information, let's start with what best serves that and who best serves that now. And then we'll take it one step at a time.
Yeah, I like what you said. So mindfulness, it goes two ways, right? So it's about being aware of yourself, respecting yourself, and also of others.
Yeah.
So, two examples of that came to mind as you were talking is, I had a call recently with a client who is removing one of their children as a beneficiary. And I see that's kind of an example of respecting themselves, right? Kind of honest with where their life is at and what their wishes are and what their legacy is. So, I mean, that's not the reality I think they wanted, and not something about what happened years ago. But I didn't get into all the details of it. But I feel like my job is, they've made that decision, so we make sure that they feel honored that way. Um, Also, kind of the other example of it too is, um, I don't know. So like we respect our clients, we take good care of them, but I expect they take good care of us as well. It's a respect thing. It's kind of like a two-way thing. So it's, if people aren't honoring us, then we're not a good fit to work together.
Well, that also goes to the empowerment piece, really, because in any kind of transaction, the whole concept would be a true partnership. But in order for us, you and I, to be in partnership, you have to step up to the table just as much as I do. And for me to hold both of us accountable for that, that's a level of empowerment that's really powerful. A lot of times, if you're the client and I'm the one producing documents and guiding you through this process, there's two schools of thought that typically happen. The first school of thought is, hey, as the attorney, I'm going to run the show. And here's what I'm gonna tell you what is and what isn't, what's good and what's not, and then you're just gonna have to listen and trust me because I'm an expert, kind of thing, which is understandable from some attorney points of view. The other one is, hey, I'm paying you. This is what I want. This is how I want it. And I don't care what you're advising. This is what makes the most sense to me. But in both cases, there can be short sightedness. In both cases, there isn't the opportunity for not only collaboration, partnership, synergy to make an even bigger outcome. So if you and I in the beginning agree to show up equally and to be in a true partnership where we both serve the greater intention, which is to have not only your legacy honored, but you honored in this process, then we've got to work through this process to make sure that that happens. And it's not my way, it's not your way, it's what synergistically we create to make that best outcome. But to talk to somebody who either A, wants to be small and say, I don't know, you make all the decisions, or wants to be big and said, I'm going to tell you how I want it, that doesn't serve empowerment and that doesn't serve the partnership. So as the attorney, you would want to really supporting them believing in themselves, believing in their self ideas, in their legacy and their experience that they want to create, and at the same time believing yourself to make sure that you create a quality plan that has quality advice but has that beautiful synergy between the two of you. And again, that's really what you're talking about there in that last comment.
Yeah. Yeah. So I wrote down a few notes before this. I think we've touched on some of them, but I wanted to give so mindset from planning and life and death. I wanted to give an overview, just a real basic overview of how the planning system works. So you have the some sort of document, right? And then you name someone to be in charge, and you say where the things go to. So, as you bring up, some people want to direct and give a lot of instructions and say, what exactly they want to have happen. They want to put a lot of detail in there, and sometimes they're striving perfection. That's what I wrote down. Sometimes, so it can be a challenge because if people start realizing, what they want, they I guess they don't know exactly what they want. I want everything to go to maybe my one child, and then sometimes they say, well, they get really hung up if, what happens after that. After that, then I want, or if they don't know something, sometimes it'll just freeze up and stop planning. So it's my goal just to get people to, to finish a plan, have something in place. And I tell people that we go about 2 what ifs deep. You'll go crazy if you're trying to constantly, figure out everything and instruct for everything. So understanding the basics of how the planning works, that you're going to appoint someone to manage your plan. It's like a trustee of a trust is an example. So whoever you name, it's kind of, you got to trust that person,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then set them up for success. So some examples of that is, I guess, some people will want to write out every specific thing. At age 18, they can get a red Honda Civic. At 21, they can buy, that if they want to get really specific, the challenge with that is, what if things change in the future? So
Right.
there's a few challenges. So I guess the first thing, it's going to take more time setting up your plan. So it's going to cost more or take more time. So there's just more cost in there. The other thing, potential for liability, meaning if you write some elaborate trust, and then it could be hard to enforce it later.
Mm-hmm.
I've been hired on almost every sides of these things, right? By all the different types of uh, people in different positions. Maybe we're surviving spouse or the kids or whatever it is. So the more complex things you're creating opportunity where an attorney could argue it maybe the other way.
Mm-hmm.
So something unintended.
Yeah, and that really speaks to something again as the attorney you want to really keep in mind when you're working with somebody. Okay, I understand that you want them to have this red Honda Civic at 18, if we use that example that you mentioned. But why? What's the intention behind this? And if you can keep people coming back to the intention and the essence of what this very specific thing is, and sometimes it's like it's what they've asked me for the last 5 years. It's what they've dreamed of. Okay, that's a very specific outcome. Or I just know that you know, I want them to have something that's reliable and safe that they can just not have to worry about. Okay, so what would fit into that as far as categories? Is there a certain brand or is there a certain construct there, a certain rating? Let's get to the place where we can get it to maintain intention, have enough description to keep the intention, but without overexposing yourself with something like you said that could be arguable.
Exactly. So that's the job of attorneys now, right? You can get the documents free online, but we're giving advice. So we can help you, tell us what you want to do, tell us exactly what you want to do, and then we can help design the best way to do it. So I'd say keep an open mind of how to achieve that, because yeah, because I want to help people get do whatever they want to do. So
But again, with that coaching and the mindset of the person, the more details people get into, the more the intention can get lost. It's important to cross the T's and dot the I's. I mean, that's just key. I mean, they're signing things and paperwork and submitting to the courts. All of that stuff is part of the process. But we can't let so much detail come in that we lose sight of what the end purpose is.
yeah, so here's our approach, the Mott legal approach. There's we try to keep the estate planning broad, like the let the trustee have discretion for health, education, maintenance, and support, very, very standard stuff. And then let the client do unofficial instructions to their brother who's the trustee or to their sister or to whoever it is, and they can say, very specific what they want to have happen. And they're not terms of the document, so it helps avoid litigation. And the trustee, if it's still the best thing to do for that beneficiary at that time, they can follow those instructions. So that's how I like to balance that. So because a lot of time I don't want to um, short people, people that want to do all these things. I can say, first sometimes I'll warn them if it's gonna be more difficult or create a bigger administration or other types of things, but as long as they understand those things, then I can help them achieve it. And then that's usually the best way, because then, if they change their mind later and say, "You know what? They should have a blue Honda Civic," they can just update the unofficial instructions, and they don't have to go into the terms of the document.
Absolutely. Then there's the enacting a trust, right? That's a whole another level of what happens. It's one thing to plan to have your estate plan and to create a trust and to have this thing that honors you and creates legacy. And most importantly, making sure there's great people involved in being able to deliver this. How much do you see on the other side? Let's say someone has passed. Now it's time to enact this plan that's been set for us. How much of the struggle? Because I know from my side of it how it can look. But tell me a little bit on your side, the mindset around that with people.
Um, yeah, so we help those people as well. So if their parents have passed away or loved ones passed away, we'll help them administer a trust if there is one, or if there's assets not inside the trust or things that need to go through probate, we'll help with that. And really, that's what's helped us develop our estate planning process. What are the common things people get stuck on? What's the common thing that's frustrating for people, and how can we avoid that on the front end? So um, I have my binder here. This is my estate plan. So I show people in the meetings when they finish it. There's a place to keep information about your financial accounts next to the trust, and I tell them in a perfect world, these things would be right together. So that's what we're shooting for. Because that's something that people can really struggle with, after someone's passed away or disabled, is trying to figure out what they had, what bank accounts did they have, what investments did they have, how do you get that information? So,
There's
and
a level of mindfulness there too that often gets missed. And again, the fact that you are striving for those parallels to make sure that they're really in sync. It's oftentimes, let's just get the plan done and let's not give any other guidance unless it's the 3 year mark, and hey, let's relook at this, let's rewrite or make adjustments, whatever. But 3 years is a long time. A lot of things can happen in 3 years. And so, especially in the world we're in today. So, to have monthly or quarterly maintenance, again, is part of the process that's really key. And to me, from a mindset, from a client standpoint, what I would get really excited about is how I'm using this almost as an opportunity every quarter to review and continue to support my legacy, which is a huge thing. And as an attorney, that's where I would, knowing the things I know about the mind, that's how I would coach my clients, would be like, listen, here's what we do, but this is just step one. Step two would be quarterly review and updates to just your parallel information that's linked to this, that would continue to get you excited about how you're growing your legacy. And whatever changes you make, this should never be daunting. It should always be exciting. It always should be adventurous and uplifting, because the fact that you're building towards something, not planning for the end of something. You're building towards more, not planning for ending.
yeah, so that's what I try to make it easy enough and help people through the process so they can get it completed and be done and don't have to worry about it, because that's why you do this. It's peace of mind, it's so you don't have to constantly worry what's in your car insurance policy, right? To
Sure.
go back to that analogy, once you make the educated decision and set it up, then you're good to go. So
Absolutely. I would take even a subtle shift of that. Peace of mind is a great step one, but then the evolution of from peace of mind is a creation. It's the start of something new, the start of your legacy, the start of this bigger vision, the start of truly letting your existence after death continue to live on through this piece. So,
yeah, it's a powerful thing, your legacy.
mhm,
And, I like how you phrase that, and that is true, in doing my own planning, you do feel that. When you complete something, it's like, "Yeah, this is cool. This is going to, after I'm gone, this is something that's still going to be in existence."
sure.
And that's what led to our digital asset process. I'm really passionate about that. So, with the digital asset trust, all my pictures on my phone is now, a digital, diary, basically. It's all preserved to my kids. So it's all it's my legacy. So,
Yeah,
uh
and that's something again where I mentioned before about you being ahead of the curve when it comes to things like that. The digital asset space that you're in, and you found it already. I know you've experienced it, which is what's motivated and inspired you to want to provide this service. But man, when people die, and then me as a child and want to access XYZ things, you can't even access like Facebook or Instagram. You can't access these other places like Google Drive, which can have lots of information, or iCloud, which can have tons of things. And Apple's really tight with the security. So is all the other ones when it comes to that stuff. But the point being, this is where we're headed so much. I don't have personally any like photo albums like that are going to tangibly be passed around to people, at least not of my own. I mean, I have my some from my dad that I was given, but at the end of the day, like,
Yep, my history starts, like, my photos, like, when I got a good, cloud backup,
yeah,
like, I think it's, like, 4 or 5 years ago, like, I have really good photos from then on,
yeah.
or maybe
So
it's longer than that.
it's amazing how much people can miss that piece in the digital asset. But to kind of go take a step back and to speak to something earlier, which goes back to the car analogy, and peace of mind in this, just get it done so you can have peace of mind in with your estate plan and things. There's that mindset, which I said was kind of step one. The evolved step from that is getting excited that you've done step one, not peace of mind, but get excited because now you then everything you do builds towards your legacy and all the money you continue to create and all the different things from selling a car, buying a car, selling a house, buying a house, or whatever else it is, continues to contribute to this great legacy that you spent the time and money on. That would be the next evolution. And if we were to relate that to the car analogy, it would be like, okay, I buy insurance. Okay, now I feel safe. Now I feel at peace, like you said. But no, I bought the car insurance. Now I get to go
car.
where I want to go. I'm going to travel. I'm going to be taken care of, and I know that now I am free to journey. In the car analogy, that's a great way to talk about the two places: either peace of mind, and now that you have insurance, that you're protected, and then you have an estate, and it's peace of mind that it's done and you're protected, versus now the journey starts. Now the legacy starts. Now we really build more from that place. So that's a really important piece of this puzzle on the client side. And as the coach and as the mentor and as the beautiful attorney on the side of the expertise, you get to continue to evolve people's minds, empower them both in partnership and in construct, so that they think of this as that and not a daunting, heavy task that they just trying to want to push through. And then it does really change the construct, which is what I get really excited about, is when people can feel really good about things that are just so important, like an estate plan and a trust. And then that gets them off the hump to do it, which I just heard the other day someone who passed, who was a famous person, who didn't have an estate plan, and it was just mind-boggling.
Someone super wealthy, right? I can't think of who it is. I think I
Super
saw that
famous,
headline.
super famous, super wealthy. They didn't have one, so everything is going to go through probate.
Yeah, very common, and I think what could be more devastating, they can sort out the money. It just takes a little bit longer and, costs some attorney fees, but they'll get the money. But more devastating is memories, photos, videos.
Yeah.
If those I'm starting to see some of that where people are calling me, after the fact. We had one not too long ago, their child passed away, um, and they're saying, "How can we get all the photos?" It's like, you can't, you can't request it. There's no way to get it at that point.
Yeah, just because, again, and you know this because you deal with it, that's why you have the digital asset. But the terms of agreement for me, when I have an iCloud account, and even if I can even get locked out of my own account if I'm not careful with passwords and information and stuff like that, which has happened also, and I'm still alive, and I can even get trapped out of my own account because the terms are so narrow in scope. So for anyone else, if I were to pass, unless they truly know passwords and stuff, which you can't always guarantee because they can change at any time.
Yeah, and then even if you know passwords, most of those contracts are single user license, which
Mm-hmm.
means it's for your life only.
Yeah.
Now, usually that's not that big of a deal, but as a lot of people are like, "Oh, I don't care. I'll share my password. I don't care that it violates the agreement." But like for example, with online banking, if your plan is, that you'll and a lot for people that aren't married too, because they don't have the protection of the law as a spouse. So if the plan is, I have the online banking password and he's cool, or they know that I have it and they told me just to continue to use it. As soon as the bank gets notice that that person's passed away, that all that account ends. That whole that access to it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, so it's really a beautiful thing for people to understand how key this is to really continue to move your life forward even when you're not here.
Yeah, so with the digital asset trust, it's developed over time, but it's a way to share your photos and videos. So now when I have my 3 boys, whenever I can get them, like, in the frame of a camera together or, like, capture some sort of memory, it's a really easy way to, I plug it to YouTube. Now you don't have to make things, public on YouTube. You can still do it as private as a way just so I shot, like, 20 minutes, a few weeks ago. I shot it all on my phone. That's a lot to keep on my phone, so I put it on YouTube, and I know it's all in there, and I feel like the equation is time will make it better quality. Or you're like my kids are the stars of it, or it's just watching them, so it's fun to see later, go back and look at yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Personally, I'm pretty happy that I didn't have a lot of documented stuff around the craziness of my life and the craziness of how I was as a kid, because I was a pretty crazy kid. And to think about my brother videotaping even 10% of the stuff we did would have been bad news.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely goes both ways. So you gotta be careful, like, even I try to tell my kids, even if you're not posting it, anything digital, it lives forever and it's there.
Yeah,
Like, you just gotta you gotta be serious about that and conscious of that.
yeah,
So I was at my sister's last night, had dinner with a couple of my sisters. We're talking about some of the stuff we used to do just because we didn't have cell phones. So, yeah, anyways, they started talking about how, we would move our friends' cars around, they would lift them up and, like, move them around the parking lot and put them in a different place. But it's
yeah.
like, yeah, kids now, they're just on their phones. I don't think they would do
Yeah,
things
half
like
the
that.
stuff. I mean, I lived in the country, so we would go on crazy bike ride journeys in the country, just all over the country roads. But back then, the roads are narrow and you're riding your bike wobbly or playing in the ditches or in the fields. Or at one point, we lived on a farm, so playing in the barn and countless times falling through the top of the barn into the pig pens and stuff. Like we did some pretty crazy stuff, and that's just the innocent stuff, But yeah, it's a pretty amazing world now we live in. It is truly documented on so many levels. I'm really happy I'm not living a childhood in this world. Um, I'm really okay with that. But it is super nice to leverage technology, to leverage these resources, and continue to create these opportunities to have a better version of the good stuff than we had as kids.
Yeah, I love helping my clients leverage technology, especially my older clients. I tell them, "You gotta take the selfies." You take people wanna see it, and and it's funny because people, like the older generation, they're like, "We just don't do that." That's just not I don't give that much attention to myself, and, they're which I really enjoy interacting with all the different types of people and
Mhm.
just seeing how different generations are, from this younger constantly to, even people are trying to encourage to get their picture taken. A lot of them just like, "No, I'm not gonna participate."
Yeah. Let me ask you, I do have a question just that kind of came up. What if there's an elderly person that doesn't understand iCloud? All their pictures are on their phone.
So
And I'm sorry, what?
so it's a Zappos CEO that passed away. That's what we're talking about. Dang, $840 million estate and no plan.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's
So, so what if I have all my stuff on my phone and it's password protected, but I have a trust and it spells out these things? Is that even something like if you don't know my password as the son or the mother, but it's in the trust? How does that work?
yeah, so what we do so the way the digital asset trust works is even things so you say on your phone, but where is it on your phone? Is it physically on that hard drive on that phone?
Not
Or is there just an app where it backs up to another cloud-based
no,
thing?
not
Phone?
cloud based. It just happens to be someone who never synced their stuff to the cloud. Is
So if
that
it's physical so it's I guess kind of
it?
physically is the right word, right? So it exists on that device,
Hmm.
then as long they just need to get access to that device.
Correct.
So, like, same thing for a computer. Like, a lot of people have a lot of photos or data that way on the computer. So what I
Mhm.
tell them is like, if it physically exists, that hard drive, then just make sure you can, that the people that you want to have access to it, that they can access it.
What if in the time, what if for whatever reason the password didn't get updated one time, and now I have this physical phone with no password, and now as the person who survived has it now but can't get access. Does
That's
that
that's a
phys-
situation we saw recently, and they couldn't get into it,
okay?
because most phones are tied to a single user license. You're like, "I have this person's phone who's not me. Can I get into it?"
Right.
So the
But if
digital
estate plan and in the trust and willed to them, if you will.
Yeah, so what we say is we specify the different accounts. Apple iCloud account, copy of the photos and videos and data to my child or to my spouse. The specific email account we'll name. With email accounts, we say that the trustee can get a list of emails received, so they can just see who it was from.
So almost like with the digital asset, if I came in, the first step you'd probably do is say, well, you have to make sure it's backed up to the cloud, which could then support and help people if they just have it physical only to set up a process to get it digital.
Yeah, you just gotta have a way to transfer it. So we give people in our first meeting. People usually they don't know of digital assets. So, it was in 2016 the law was passed, and it defined digital assets as your information that's being stored on your behalf electronically, and you have the right to direct that information. So, yeah, most people don't understand that, or they weren't aware of that. So we have a digital asset inventory and checklist. So the steps are number one, inventory. What is out there. Just think about what is out there and where is it stored. So like on your phone, do you mean physically on there, or do you mean backed up to a cloud place? Inventory. Step two is check for an online tool. So like Facebook, they have legacy settings which you can set up to say what you wanna have happen to your account. Google has inactive account manager. That's an example of what the law calls an online tool. So what I want people to do is go through each thing, see, do they provide a way for you to transfer it? Um, Now for me, my YouTube channel, my Google stuff, I don't wanna put my 13-year-old son as my inactive account manager, and my trustee is a fiduciary company. So I listed my digital asset trust. So I listed my Google stuff, my YouTube page, copy of that to my children.
So you really then support people making sure that they are tracking and have it synced some digital way so it can be transferred. So it can even bring awareness to people who rethink they're safe because they've got it on their phone, and they're not really safe because if for whatever reason, and for a lot of people, I don't understand this because of how I know phones work, but I still believe, and I guess I do understand on some level, still there's a lack of education of backups and things being redundant. And so when people lose phones in the water or drop them off of a side of a cliff, and they're like, yeah, I lost all my photos and all my contacts. Going through an estate plan and the digital asset trust can actually support people's assurance that they end up truly getting the copy so that they can be transferred.
Yeah, so we help them think through that, and then we provide a resource with all of our plans. We call it the digital vault, but it's a way to store everything electronically and decide who can access it and when.
Yeah, which is
So
a really big deal. But which brings me to the last piece of this from the mindset standpoint. Because as we've gone through this process and you start thinking about legacy and you start thinking about this being an opportunity to start your journey, we really think about more mindfully of how we want to live. And I truly feel like a trust and an estate plan and even a digital asset piece of the total trust really starts to put ourselves on a powerful and positive path to create a story that we want left behind. So to me, all of this whole process is never meant to be daunting, heavy, or convoluted. It's meant to be freeing, exciting, and about leaving a legacy and creating the next step of your journey once the whole legal part's done. And then we move forward on this next step of the journey. And if we can get more people thinking about that in other areas of life too, like housing and buying a house and things like that, if we can get people more thinking this way, not only will there be more people covered, like the Zappos guy, um, but there'll be more opportunity for the magic to continue to move on in life. And that should be the stories. We should be reading about the CEO of Zappos, an unfortunate and untimely death as it is. We should be reading about him and the beauty of the story of his trust and his estate and what it did for his legacy, not an article saying that he didn't have it. And so to me, one of what I'll task you with today, and even the clients that would be listening, or any other attorney, is to start to shift the mindset and the messaging to have this place or have this framework of this exciting thing we get to do to not only honor ourselves, learn how to partner with somebody to create a bigger outcome than I could create on my own or you could create on your own, so that we can then start the journey of the next phase to add and build and grow our adventure or grow our wealth, grow our legacy while we're still alive.
Yeah, we try to share that with people. An example that I've seen is I've seen trust in the 3rd and 4th generation. So it's really cool, so where I'm like, wow, this is created, 3 generations ago. Your great grandpa sometimes, or someone like that, or it's cool to hear the stories of where it originated sometimes. And yeah, so I've seen, I don't think people realize how powerful that is. Think about that. Think about it, 3 generations later, empowering those people. And what I mean by empowering is, where all the children were left with an inheritance that allowed them to be good stewards of it. They bought more real estate, educated themselves, were in careers, and it grew that much more, and was just um, helped empower each of the future generations. So yeah, it's that is great. I'm glad you brought that up to help us emphasize that point, and to I guess I was kind of missing that in one of the benefits of estate planning. The peace of mind is a lot shorter than what you've described. The peace of mind, I think, is just kind of like the immediate. That's what I see in my office. When things are signed, they go, "So that's effective right now," and I go, "Yep." So you're covered. So that's instant, and then it starts something much bigger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
which is exciting. And as you and I both know, Nikki was kind of the catalyst for us coming together today. And she really does do some fantastic work. And as we were kind of chatting back and forth and started to think about, well, what would I do, or why would I be on this call with you, and what would that contribute? Because and to think about this moment that we just had, and the intention and the messaging out there for other attorneys, for you, for clients that may hear this, man, this can be a really beautiful thing now. And if we can continue to echo this message out, myself too, even for my own clients, as we start talking about different ways we can now evolve and grow, and for you and for the people listening, this is what these moments are about. And that's why I do what I do, and that's why I get to work with great people like you, and watch you do amazing things too. So this is a pretty cool thing.
yeah, so thank you for joining me, and shout out to Nikki. She is amazing. She runs our marketing and social media stuff, and she helps. I feel like she like yourself, I see like the mirror and magnifying glass. Like she helps me write amazing things, where she can kind of polish it up, or I feels like she's got an insight into my approach and how I like to do things. So it's really been great working with her, and yourself, and some other people in the community that I've met as well. Some of your other friends, and I guess I don't know if you find each other or things like that, just like-minded people. So
Yeah, which is really part of the fun of life, is realizing we're all the currency of life, realizing that all of this magic and continuing to attract great people and even greater people than you, and just having fun with it all. And that's what I feel like we can do. I feel like clients can do that with you. I feel like you and I can do that personally and in our businesses. But man, that's what life's supposed to be, is this adventure, to have fun, to learn and grow from yourself and everyone else.
yeah, exactly. So I love doing this. I get to help people every day, and then we're starting to help attorneys through our Mott Legal platform. So the technology is coming together there. So we'll be rolling out next year where we can help more attorneys practice this. We'll help them help more people. Keep spreading this message of positivity. Um, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
All right, thanks, Al. I guess we can close it on that. Let me put your information up there again. You guys go check out his info, his website. If you've never tried a visualization, go try it. Take 10 minutes of your life, and you'll be glad you did. I
Yeah,
saw something.
ones on there. There's like a quick reset one that's 4 minutes long. There's some that deal with like physical health if you're going through some stuff. One that's kind of like just breathing forward, kind of using your breath and your mind to kind of create a flow for your day as you start it, as you wake up in the morning. There's some fun different things. I have another section on there that's kind of embedded SoundCloud audios that kind of talk about some philosophies of a way of life, not the way, but a way of life, and then some beautiful events that I've done that are pre-recorded and stuff. So,
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much for doing this today, Al, and I'll talk to you soon.
all right, brother, great to see you again, and I will
You too.
talk to you soon.
Bye.
All right, bye.